Hello and thank you for watching. My name is Heather Alexandra, and today we're going to talk about a really cool boss fight. The combat system in Final Fantasy XV can be sort of balletic and really energetic. It lends itself to some very grand moments. More often than not, though, you're either battling against a horde of minions or you're clashing against a single monumental foe. You're sort of either fighting a pack of little goblins or you're fighting a big, huge behemoth. It's not very often that you get to test your mettle against a single skilled, human opponent, like a fellow warrior. But that changes once you encounter Aranea Highwind. Aranea is a mercenary working for the Niflheim Empire. Noctis and his friends encounter her after attacking a military base in order to get revenge for a fallen comrade. His name was Jared, we met him once, but he died and we're all very angry, so we're going to attack the Empire. The sequence leading up to this boss fight has a mix of very interesting sort of gameplay mechanics. It goes from like a tense stealth sequence with a lot of platform navigation to a full-on explosive base assault. And this is important because the game is front-loading a lot of action in order to make it feel like you've accomplished your mission. The first thing that the game does incredibly right with Aranea is that they toss her right into your lap. Almost literally, she sort of jumps off a tower and attacks you pretty much randomly. Having a boss fight that comes after you think you've accomplished your mission sets a very clear tone for the encounter. It tells you that Aranea is dangerous, it tells you that she's crafty, it tells you that she got the drop on you and you have to take her seriously. The encounter design pulls out all of the stops in order to give the player a proper challenge here as well. Aranea's spear has a long range, which means that players will have to be incredibly proactive with their dodging to avoid getting hit. In order to even the odds against the party, she's also able to use really powerful lightning magic that will hit everyone at once if you're not careful. The game hasn't really offered a boss with such a varied toolset up until this point. It helps paint Aranea as a threat, while demanding a high reactivity on the part of the player. The result is that combat feels far more dangerous in this encounter than it has for pretty much any other boss fight. While she initially fights on the ground, she'll eventually withdraw and leap into the air for some big attacks after your initial exchange of blows. As she creates distance, the game's design is creating further options and opportunities. The space of battle, that sort of canvas that we get to paint on when we play, expands wider than any previous boss fight in the game. Players can remain on the ground to wait for Aranea's next assault, but eager players can give chase and sort of fly up into the sky using Warp Strike. Pressing the advantage and taking to the skies rewards players with some spectacular, and I mean truly spectacular, air choreography. These moments punctuate aggressive player decisions, and they're important for establishing a solid sort of pace to the encounter. You rush in and you have a little exchange, you rush in again, have a little exchange. There's a nice momentum that occurs. They also give you a sense of control. Final Fantasy XV's combat can sometimes feel like a little haphazard, especially this is still early in the game, so you might have some moments where you're a little clumsy. But filling these moments with powerful animations can sort of make you feel like your actions are a little bit more directed. It helps the player sort of feel more confident even if things are starting to fall apart around them. The expanse of the player's sort of possibility space into the upper realms of the combat arena calls attention to a bunch of different little bits of level geometry that you can work to. If the players choose to engage Aranea high up into the air, they risk fall damage. They sort of rush up, and if they're not careful, they'll plummet back to the ground. It makes the choice of whether or not to attack her in the air a little bit more of an active decision. And the variety of walkways and guard towers around the arena start to provide a sort of safety net. You can prevent most or even all of your fall damage by warping to them at the right moment. This, in turn, refills your magic meter, which means that you can start warping again. The design of the space actively encourages bold decisions by making sure that the player always has a way to return to the fight quickly. So if you burn out all your MP, you can sort of leap to a platform, and then you'll have more MP to leap right back to Aranea. Additionally, the presence of smaller enemies contribute to this encounter as well. They can split your team's focus and provide fun little one-on-one moments with Aranea. They also have more functional purposes in order to sort of generate energy for your armature meter. Because armature attacks home you in towards the opponent, it also gives the player a way to reach Aranea quickly if they're not really used to using Warp Strike. It means that they'll hit those punctuated battle animations more often and have more incentive to warp and restore MP for another round of combat. The design of this encounter constantly funnels the player towards these large triumphant clashes with Aranea before offering them many different ways to power up and then press the attack again. The fight finds additional moments to reset the pace by adding contextual parrying. If the player stands their ground instead of chasing Aranea down, the game gives them a chance to do a significant amount of damage by parrying her attacks. Regardless of whether or not the space encourages a certain combat style, the fight's design itself still makes a host of other tactics viable and rewarding. You don't have to chase her down, you don't have to stand your ground, you have different options in order to face down your enemy. If players are feeling sort of timid about their parrying skills, they can even attempt to use the environment to block some of Aranea's larger attacks. Not everything works. The arena frees up a little bit as certain parts of the environment are destroyed, but there are occasions when navigation can become cluttered. Your comrades take up space and the camera can sort of spin around, but these are persistent problems that are sort of there in the DNA of Final Fantasy XV's combat system, and you're going to run into them no matter what. But the nice thing here is that the Aranea encounter mostly sidesteps them by being very active, but those issues still do crop up from time to time. Overall, the encounter keeps a really fast pace, hits moments of downtime with important tactical decisions or sort of eye-catching animations. The player is provided tools to refill their magic and their armature gauges, so they have various options available to them at any time. The environmental design allows for clever spacing of your opponent. Aranea's abilities demand that you have to be really reactive and really invested in the fight itself. Altogether, it combines to form a solid encounter that is a great introduction to one of the game's best characters.